Palestine, a state denied, a people undermined, why recognition is no longer negotiable. In a world that claims to champion democracy, sovereignty, and human rights, the case of Palestine remains a searing contradiction. As of March 2025, 147 of the 193 United Nations member states, more than 75%, recognize the state of Palestine. It holds non-member observer state status in the United Nations General Assembly and has been granted increasing rights, including the ability to participate in committees and introduce proposals. And yet, Palestine remains locked in a limbo, recognized by the majority, but denied full statehood. Why? The answer lies not in law or legitimacy, but in geopolitics, most notably the persistent veto of the United States at the UN Security Council, effectively silencing the will of the global majority. This power imbalance not only obstructs Palestine's full UN membership, but actively undermines the principle of self-determination enshrined in international law. The historical mandate ignored. The Palestinian people declared their statehood in 1988, under the umbrella of the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, citing sovereignty over the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem territories occupied by Israel since 1967 and recognized by the international community as Palestinian. By the end of that same year, 78 countries had already recognized the newly declared state. In the decades that followed, the world watched the slow death of the Oslo Accords, the failure of bilateral negotiations, and the accelerating expansion of Israeli settlements, illegal under international law. Despite repeated calls for peace and a two-state solution, the very structure of international diplomacy has become a mechanism of paralysis. The United States and the weaponization of the veto. The UN Security Council has become the gatekeeper of statehood, and the U.S., Israel's staunchest ally, holds the key. Every time the issue of Palestine's full membership comes to the table, the U.S. either vetoes or threatens to veto it. This veto power has morphed from a protective shield for global security into a political weapon, ensuring Palestine's continued exclusion. This is not neutrality. This is complicity. The argument for full sovereignty, including military rights. Some may argue that the path to peace requires a demilitarized Palestinian state, as repeatedly demanded by Israeli leaders. But here lies the double standard. Israel is a fully armed state with one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world, supported by billions in U.S. military aid. Why, then, should the Palestinian people be denied the right to self-defense, to protect their borders, to safeguard their dignity? Statehood without the right to defend oneself is sovereignty in name only. A country without an army is not seen as equal. It is left vulnerable. The concept of demilitarized independence is a paradox, offering a symbolic flag, but not the shield that every sovereign nation has the right to carry. Would the world accept a demilitarized Ukraine? A powerless Taiwan? Then why must Palestine be the exception? International hypocrisy. France, the UK, and Canada have signaled intentions to recognize Palestine in September 2025, but only if certain conditions are met. What conditions remain unmet after 75 years of displacement, 57 years of military occupation, and countless UN resolutions? What additional proof must the Palestinian people offer? This kind of conditional recognition reveals a hypocrisy at the heart of Western diplomacy, where abstract peace processes are used to delay justice indefinitely, and the rights of the oppressed are always placed on hold until the oppressor agrees. The people's voice and the global majority. It is not just governments, but people across the world, through movements, petitions, protests, and votes, who have declared loudly, Palestine is a state. From Latin America to Asia, from Africa to the streets of Europe, voices have risen demanding recognition, justice, and equality. This is not just about borders. It is about dignity. It is about ending the normalization of apartheid, occupation, and statelessness. It is about the Palestinian child in Gaza who has lived through 5 wars before turning 10. It is about a people whose right to exist as a nation must no longer be dependent on the whims of powerful nations or the silence of diplomatic chambers. Conclusion: recognition now, without conditions. Palestine meets all the criteria of statehood as per the Montevideo Convention. A permanent population, a defined territory, a functioning government, and the capacity to enter into relations with other states. What it lacks is not legitimacy, but permission from power. The international community must stop treating Palestinian statehood as a bargaining chip. Recognition is not a favor. It is a right, and that right must include the full spectrum of sovereignty, territorial, political, and yes, military. Anything less is not peace, it is submission.